All right, so now we're going to go on and start talking about our second body paragraph. And the second body paragraph is all about your experience of reading the book. You're going to be talking about the same scene as the first body paragraph. So for our example, we're still dealing with Dally's death. But now we're going to be talking about how did we see it as a reader reading it? How did we imagine it? So your second body paragraph is first person. So you get to use your I and your me, your my, your you, we, things like that. And you're also going to put a quote into your second body paragraph. And we'll talk about that when we get that far. So of course we're going to start off with our topic sentence. We need a transition and we're going to identify the topic of this paragraph. So our transition, on the other hand, and then the book leads the reader to interpret the scene very differently. So here I'm talking about what is the topic of this paragraph. The topic is how the reader interprets the scene. As I was reading the book, how did I imagine the scene would go? That's what that means. Okay, so now that we have our topic sentence, let's go to our next sentence. You're going to have a transition and then you're going to explain how the book portrays the first difference. So if you remember the last paragraph, the first thing we talked about was all of that stuff leading up to when Dally dies. In the movie, we see him leaving the hospital, pulling the gun on the doctor, robbing the convenience store, destroying the comic book, even getting shot at by the store owner. However, in the book, Dally calls the gang to ask for help, telling them that he robbed the store, but S.E. Hinton doesn't show that to us. Okay, so it says, but Hinton does not describe the robbery itself. She doesn't provide that for us. So I need to ask myself, as the reader, what is it that I imagine? So as I'm reading the book, phone rings, Derry answers, and Dally says, I robbed a store, I need help. All of a sudden, I get this picture in my brain. When I read that Dally robbed a store, I quickly pictured an angry and distraught Dally running into a gas station convenience store. He demanded the money. Getting it, he ran out again. I didn't picture him tearing up or destroying anything, and I certainly didn't picture the store owner taking a shot at Dally. I never thought that that was what happened. So here, after I have talked about what S.E. Hinton put in the book, then I talk about how I imagined the story. What did I see happen in my head? Okay, so now I'm all done with that first difference. I need another transition. Gotta have those. Now I need to explain how the book portrays the second difference. So I have to go back to that last paragraph. My second difference is when Dally actually gets shot and dies in the park or in the vacant lot. So how does the book portray that second difference? So I introduce it. Another difference is when Dally dies in the book. Here Hinton writes, and look what I've got here, guys. I have my quote. Gotta have a quote in this paragraph. So there's my quote. Even as the policeman's guns spit fire into the night, I knew that was what Dally wanted. He was jerked half around by the impact of the bullets, then slowly crumpled with a look of grim triumph on his face. He was dead before he hit the ground. Wow, that is really different than what happens in the movie. But before we go on to that, take a look over here. I've got my page number. Remember, parenthesis, number, parenthesis, period. That's exactly how it needs to be formatted. Okay, so using my quote, I explained what happened in the book. Now I need to show my interpretation. So when I read about Dally getting shot, how did I picture that in my head? So here's what I pictured. I thought two police officers jumping out of their cars, telling Dally to freeze. Then Dally raised his gun. I pictured both of them firing at one time, both of the police officers firing at once. When the bullets hit Dally, I saw him spinning toward the group, looking at them with a bitter smile, and then crumbling to the ground in a heap. I imagined a moment of deafening silence, a complete disbelief, before the gang started screaming out at him, and just as they were getting ready to run to him, Ponyboy passes out and collapses onto the ground. I pictured Two-Bit and Steve running to Dally while Derry and Soda stayed with Ponyboy. Now I know my imagination took it a little bit beyond what is actually written in the book. That's okay, because that's usually what's going to happen. Not only did I see Dally die, I saw those immediate after effects. What happened right after he died as well. All right, guys, we're in the home stretch of this paragraph. All we've got left is our concluding sentence. Our concluding sentence for this paragraph, a little bit different from the last paragraph. Here, you need to summarize how the differences affected your understanding of the story. So that means the difference between the movie and the book. How did that affect your understanding of what was going on? So I said Hinton's writing leaves more to the imagination due to the first-person nature of the story. Remember, this story is told from Ponyboy's point of view. So we really only know what Ponyboy says and what Ponyboy thinks and what Ponyboy sees. That leaves us a lot of room to imagine other stuff with other characters. I said this story gives the reader the opportunity to create their own version of events, making the story more personal to them. If I create it in my mind, I'm owning the story and it's more personal to me. All right, guys, so real quick recap of the paragraph. You're going to start with your topic sentence, identifying the topic, talk about the way the book portrays the first difference, and then how did you imagine that difference? And then talk about how the book shows that second difference. How did you imagine that difference? And then summarize how the differences affected your understanding in the story. Keep in mind, only last names, because we've already introduced S.E. Hinton, so we only need to include her last name in this paragraph. We don't need to write S.E. all the time, just Hinton is good. Also, make sure you have your quote, and make sure your quote format is correct. Parentheses, page number only, parentheses, period. Got it?